We've worked hard, banded together, fought for something, and made history many times. We've gotten this far because together we are tireless. Tireless doesn't mean we don't get tired. It means we help each other continue on. And knowing one voice is strong, but the power of thousands or millions is stronger. Tireless takes a stand together, and we won't rest until all of Canada is with us. We are the Tireless, and together we will achieve gender equality.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Andrea Gunraj, and I'm with the Canadian Women's Foundation. Thank you very much for joining us today. We have a really special campaign to launch with you, and it's just something that we're so excited about. And on a Monday, we'd love to share it with you. It's called Show Up for Girls, and we're really excited that you've joined us. Please, if you have any questions or any comments about this campaign as we talk about it, go ahead and add your questions down below, and we'll get to them at the end. And just to give you a bit of a background, you may know that the Canadian Women's Foundation is Canada's public foundation for gender equality. We support women, girls, and everyone affected by gender inequality to move out of violence, out of poverty, and into confidence and leadership. Of course, the work we do and the programs we support takes place on First Nations, Métis, and Inuit land. We are very grateful for the opportunity to meet and work on this land, and we're committed to pursuing truth, reconciliation, decolonization, and allyship in an ongoing effort to make right with all our relations. As we talk today, as I mentioned, please do include your questions below. And please, if you see any links that you don't recognize, I'd ask you not to click on them. Sometimes things happen, weird things happen on Facebook. So we just want you to be safe and be well. So if you would like to click on a link, or if you would like to go to our website, go to canadianwomen.org. That's our official website, and I'm just going to put it up right there so that you can see. And that's the campaign link in particular, Show Up for Girls. And anytime you want to check it out, please go ahead there and you'll find out all the information about the campaign and why it's so special. I'll just give you a bit of a background on Show Up for Girls before we get to our guests. We have Paulette Senior, CEO and President of the Canadian Women's Foundation. We have Alison Scarlett, who's with us with Giant Tiger, one of our partners on this campaign, and Suzanne Duncan, one of my colleagues at the Canadian Women's Foundation. She's the VP of Philanthropy. Some background on Show Up for Girls. We're really thinking deeply about girls this month. We're looking forward actually to the International Day of the Girl. It's celebrated every year on October 11, and it was launched in 2011 with the leadership of Plan Canada. It focuses attention on the challenges girls face and promotes girls' empowerment and the fulfillment of their human rights, a very worthy thing for us to do in Canada and internationally. So the foundation is dedicating the whole month of October to shine a spotlight on diverse girls and non-binary youth in Canada. The COVID-19 pandemic, as we know, has had a profoundly gendered impact on women. And sometimes we haven't been speaking about what's going on for girls. It's kind of coming out now that it has a very special gendered impact on young people and girls in particular. And of course, girls need our support more than ever. And we're going to get into that in more detail. And of course, that's why we're launching Show Up for Girls. This campaign highlights what girls and non-binary youth of all backgrounds and identities need today and asks everyone in Canada to rally around them. We're really thrilled to launch the campaign with the support of champion soccer star Christine Sinclair. She's FIFA's all-time goal leader. She plays on Canada's women national soccer team and is the world's all-time leader for international goals. It's really excellent. And she's been inducted into Canada's Walk of Fame and appointed an officer of the Order of Canada. Very accomplished person, but I think she'd be the first to say that girls need every support to be able to reach their goals. And that's why she's a part of this campaign. And you'll see more of Christine as the campaign goes on. And we're really grateful that she's here joining us, adding that strength to the campaign to show why it's so important that girls get every support they need to achieve their goals and shine. We're also really grateful to have the generous support of Giant Tiger and Sinking Ship Entertainment in this campaign. There are two partners, and they're matching all donations to the campaign up to $20,000. So they're tripling the impact. If you give to the campaign, their support will help us get to that high amount that we want to give towards girls' programs that the foundation supports. And this makes sure that girls get every program that's tailored to them in their community at this really difficult time. So to get into it, let's go ahead and bring in our CEO, Paulette Senior. Hi, Paulette.
Hi, Andrea.
So glad that you're with us today, and thank you very much for helping us speak to this issue of what it means to show up for girls. Why girls and why now?
Well, thanks for having me. This is a really great day. And, let me just start by saying that girls are brilliant. They are resilient and deserve every chance to shine, but they don't always get the unique supports they need as they live their multifaceted lives. That's why the foundation has kept a special focus on them with an intersectional lens to make sure all girls get the support they need and deserve. First, we can speak to the mental health issues that girls in Canada are facing right now. For years, the research has shown us that many girls experience a decline in mental health and confidence as they reach adolescence. When I first learned about these stats, I was actually heartbroken. But, as I think back to my own childhood, it actually makes sense. In grade 6, for example, 36% of girls say they feel self-confident. But by grade 10, this falls to only 14%. In 2019, girls aged 12 to 14 were more than twice as likely as boys to report fair or poor mental health. Now, in the wake of the pandemic, 57% of young people aged 15 to 17 have reported that their mental health is worse than it was before the physical distancing that we all had to put in place. And so that's a pretty dramatic impact. On top of that, increased economic instability, violence at home, and isolation from peers means that many girls will struggle even more. Girl-focused community programs that the foundation supports serve as a lifeline to build a sense of belonging, community, confidence, and mentorship for all girls. Racialized girls, Indigenous girls, girls with disabilities, newcomer girls, trans and non-binary youth, girls living in rural, remote, and urban Canada, you name it. No matter where they live, this is critical. They provide safe spaces, I should say, where participants can explore STEM, health and physical activity, leadership, mentorship, media literacy, healthy relationships, and more. When I was a girl, I wish I had access to girls-focused programs like this. I would have loved to have learned, for example, about mentorship and the kind of support that I could get, because my self-esteem really suffered at that age. From 11 to my early teens, I was really struggling and trying to discover who I was, especially as a newcomer to Canada. But with the uncertainty that new barriers of the pandemic that are here, many girls' programs have shared that they are struggling to meet needs and stay operating. Girls' programs have had to quickly pivot and adapt, as a lot of other organizations can actually testify to, and it hasn't been easy. For instance, some have had to find ways to digitize and offer tools to participants in situations where access to tech and internet is quite limited. Some have had to reduce staff and volunteers for social distancing and to deal with the fact that resources are limited. So that's why we decided we have to actually launch this campaign, and we have to get together and show up for girls.
Thank you so much, Paulette. I really appreciate hearing some of the background in terms of what would have helped you as a girl. And I just want to ask you a little bit more about that. Newcomer girls, there's so many issues that they may be experiencing. So tell me a little bit about your personal experience when you came, some of the things that you would have liked to be able to hear about in a girls focused program, and maybe some of the things that you think are so important right now for girls, particularly in the pandemic.
Well, I can think about that. I was 11, when I came to Canada, and so it's an age where you're transitioning from childhood into adolescence, and that is difficult on its own. But when you're doing it as a newcomer girl, when you're having to make new friends, when you're having to think about your own sort of how you show up, how you present yourself, and you're trying to do your best to fit in, that can be very difficult. So those are some of the struggles that I went through as a girl. Plus, on top of that, being mocked for my ethnic background, being mocked in terms of not knowing enough, being mocked as someone who just didn't fit in, as a young Black kid just trying to make it. So that was really tough on me. And this program, were it in place when I was around, or when I was a kid, would have been really helpful. I would have had someone that I can talk to, someone that I can share my thoughts with, someone that can help me with, just to navigate through some of the challenges I was having. And that wasn't really there for me.
Thank you, Paulette, for sharing that. I think a lot of girls would say that they experience these very same things even now. And I think it's really important that we remember that different girls need different things. They're in lots of different places. They might have different experiences. They might be new to the country. They might be living in rural, remote areas, different backgrounds, different ethnicities. So that diversity reflected in programs and making sure that it's reflected back to them in their programs, so important for us. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, Andrea. I think about the setback. Right. It was a bit of a setback for me, but I had to make up for it as I got older. But that setback, I could have been much farther ahead as a child had I had that kind of support. So this is what we're hoping to have in place for girls now. Thank you for having me today.
Thanks for joining us, Paulette. So yeah, we are just so excited about this program. And I think there's so many different ways that you can get involved. And that's why we have Suzanne Duncan, who is the VP of Philanthropy at the Foundation. Hi, Suzanne. Great to have you. Suzanne, I can't hear you. Can you hear me? I think that Suzanne might be having a bit of difficulty now. Suzanne, you want to try again? Oh, can't hear you still. I'm so sorry. Okay, so we are going to remove you and pull you back in and see if that works. Technology. Suzanne, can you hear me? I can see you, but I can't hear you. No worries. We're going to get to you afterwards then. Maybe it will correct itself. But I will speak to some of the things that you were going to speak to in terms of how people can get involved. I think it's really important for us to see the different ways that people can get involved in this great campaign. We are so thrilled, as I mentioned, to have the generous support of Giant Tiger and Sinking Ship, our two partners. And every donation, as I mentioned, made to show up for girls in the month of October will be tripled. That triple your impact. Every dollar you give will turn to 3. And really make sure you take advantage of this match over the month of October. It's a really awesome opportunity. And we want to raise at least $75,000 that will go towards girls programs across the country. And we need your help. As Paulette said, there's lots of different programs that we support. And we have to make sure that people get the resources they need to be involved. So I think that any amount that you give this month will make a difference. It means so much to girls right now. And we know, of course, that programs are struggling to meet the needs in the pandemic. So I'm going to pull Suzanne back in and see if this is going to work for us this time. Oh, my goodness. Suzanne.
Hi, Andrea.
Oh, there we go. It worked.
Yay.
Magic. Hi. So as I mentioned, Suzanne is VP of I'm VP of Public Engagement. Suzanne is VP of Philanthropy. And can you tell us a little bit about what programs have said they need to make sure that girls get everything in this pandemic. And tell us a little bit more about what people can do to get involved. I did mention the triple match. $1 turns to $3, which is awesome, but also give us a sense of what people can do online to support this great campaign.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Andrea, we want to raise $75,000 this year to support girls programs across the country, and we need people to help. We need you to give, so you can go right now to Canadianwomen.org and click on Show Up for Girls. Any amount you give will make a difference and means so much for girls right now. But we want to do more than that. We want to really get the message out. So please, we want to make sure that girls know right now that we see them, that we're with them, and we need to show them this. So we're asking you and all of our supporters to show us how you're uplifting girls using the hashtag #ShowUpForGirls. Whether you're a peer, a parent, a guardian, a family member, an educator, elder, or a neighbor, we want to see your stories, your pictures, and your videos. Personally, I've been trying to show up for girls in my family, girls in the neighborhood, and the daughters and non-binary kids of my friends. Over the summer, I was a safe and supportive adult for girls to talk to, especially when they were getting sick of talking to their parents. And now that many girls are back in school, I've been helping with homework and supporting them as they get to know the new normal of virtual teaching and this more insular class structure. I'll be sharing some of these stories over the coming weeks with the hashtag #ShowUpForGirls, and I really would encourage you to do the same. I'm also really, really excited because we've got a live stream that we're planning for next week. And we're going to actually talk to people in girls programs, the girls programs that we support at the Canadian Women's Foundation, so that we can hear directly about the impacts and needs right now. You know, I know girls know what they need to thrive, and I can't wait to hear their stories and suggestions and see what we can do to help them even more.
I'm just going to unmute myself. Thank you for that, Suzanne. And it's really sweet to hear that you're supporting girls in your local neighborhood. Tell us a little bit about just some of the challenges that girls have told you in going back to school and perhaps having a new weird environment that they have to get used to.
Yeah, I think because kids are back in smaller classrooms here, or they're doing this virtually, which means that they don't have the same access to a broad network of adults. So particularly kids who are in junior high and high school may have a lot more teachers that they can rely on and a lot more safe adults in their lives. So I've been really trying to fill some of that gap, particularly for the kids of friends of mine, because there's certain conversations you can have with your parents, and there's certain conversations you want to have outside of that. And I think it's really important that we are all those safe and supportive adults in kids' lives right now, because there's so much change. We want them to know that people are there for them and that we're a bit of stability in some uncertainty around them.
Yeah, that idea of being a safe person at this time, I can't stress enough how important that is. And we also have to recognize that there's a couple of things that are going on for families, but also for girls, because they're part of families many times. The idea that there's an increased risk of violence that we're seeing, there's been a spike in violence, and particularly gender-based violence that happens in home spaces when people are stuck with abusers, perhaps in the pandemic. And we also have increased economic insecurities that all kinds of families are experiencing. But of course, women have experienced it in a more intense way. And then we've also had this issue of just increased isolation. And then that has led to, of course, girls having increased mental health concerns. Now, we always knew that the baseline of mental health concerns were really high. This was something that happened before the pandemic, and you can go into the details of what that looks like. That is a lot of pressure that girls face, a lot of perhaps sexualization at an early age where they're not ready, and they're dealing with a lot of stereotypes about what it means to be a girl, being in the girl box or the women box. So add to that the pandemic dynamic, and you've got a lot of insecurity, you got a lot of need for support. And that's where the girls programs can be so brilliant, because they're safe spaces for girls to get together and talk about their issues. And not just girls, but girls and non-binary youth, trans youth, two-spirit youth. We have to remember that girls are a very diverse group, and that these programs really excel at really speaking to girls and all their needs and all their diversities. So
Yeah,
while we're here, yes, go ahead.
No, I would agree with that. And I just want to add, we're all very concerned for girls. Girls are also concerned for each other. And a lot of the conversations that I've been having with young women and with non-binary folks are about the worries that they have for other folks in their own network. And being somebody who's pretty open about mental health issues, a lot of the conversations I'm having with young people are about how can they support their friends? How can they be there for friends who might be in more precarious situations? And also, really importantly, how can they help their families, their siblings, their parents? They're seeing the stresses that their families are under. And, they really want to be there to be part of the solution for their families as well.
Girls play an important role in families. Mm-hmm. So along those lines, let's bring in one of our partners to the conversation. We're really thrilled to have Alison Scarlett, AVP of Communications and Public Relations at Giant Tiger. And I add you to the stream. Hi, Alison.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I got to center myself. There we go.
Yeah, it's got to look good, right?
There we go.
So, Alison, tell us a little bit about what you do at Giant Tiger, and really, why are girls such a focus for Giant Tiger? Because you've been a supporter of the Canadian Women's Foundation for quite some time.
So at Giant Tiger, we're proud of the role that we have in helping to create strong, resilient, thriving, and diverse communities. As you know, we've been a partner of the Canadian Women's Foundation for many years, specifically the Girls Fund. The programs that the Girls Fund delivers help build confidence, develop leadership skills, and help girls navigate adolescence. And these are all skills that help build strong communities. And really, that's what Giant Tiger is all about. We know that now COVID-19 has seen a reduced access to programs. And that's why Giant Tiger is so proud to have joined forces once again with your incredible organization to make sure that girls across the country have access to these programs. And specifically, why at Giant Tiger, we are inviting everyone to join us and show up for the girls. And let's all make sure that these vital programs continue to be delivered to the girls who need them the most.
That's really awesome. And I am curious, just like I asked Suzanne, tell us a little bit about what you're doing in your community to show up for girls. I'd like to ask you a bit of a personal reflection question. Do you or anyone have you participated in a girls focused program? And what do you think is so important about them? Why girls and why now?
So, I just have to say, similar to, I think, a lot of people, my goodness, I wish that programs like this existed 30 years ago. And I can't help but imagine what a different world and country we would be in if girls, when I was at that age, had access to programs like this. I myself struggled with confidence and finding my voice. And I know that girls in my peer group did the same thing. And so to have had access to those programs, to have had access to mentorship and leadership and that skill development, I can't imagine what a different world we would be in today. And that's why, we applaud all of the amazing work that your organization is helping to facilitate across the country to make sure that these programs are there now. And, we don't want to see a pause in any of these programs during COVID. We want to be sure that they are delivered in whatever shape or form that, this new virtual world necessitates, but that girls have access to these, because my goodness, now is the time to forge forward. It is not the time to pause.
Here, really well said. I think it's even more important now. I think like girls, they're at a special time, and all young people at a special time in their lives. It's that development stage. And any kind of break in those supports in this key development stage, I think can have lifelong impact. So that piece about not having a break, making sure that we're still there for young people, I think it's so key, and we really appreciate the work of Giant Tiger. Suzanne, anything before we let Alison go? Anything you want to say about their involvement and what needs to happen?
Well, I am so thrilled, Alison, that Giant Tiger, as well as Sinking Ship, have stepped up to show up for girls. And I want to remind everyone that if you donate before October 31st at canadianwomen.org/showupforgirls, with the address you see on the bottom of the screen, your contribution is going to be tripled. And that's a huge impact for girls across the country. And don't forget to show us how you're uplifting girls in stories and videos with the hashtag. Join me in sharing some of these stories so that we can make sure every girl knows that we're here for them.
So some of those stories, of course, can be what you're doing with your children, what you're doing with people in your community, neighbors, as Suzanne was mentioning. It could also be people who are just like significant young people in your lives. I have friends and family that I can only see now over Zoom. So we're doing calls every so often. We're messaging each other. We're WhatsApping way more than I particularly want to. Just be in touch. It's really hard. And I must say, I feel for young people now in this new environment. So that stepping up and that showing up is going to be all the more important. And we just want to recognize and give people ideas, give one another ideas, cross-pollinate a little bit, and make sure that we are doing all we can at this tough time. So thank you very much, Suzanne, and thank you very much, Alison. We really appreciate both of you. And particularly, we want to just shout out to Giant Tiger and Sinking Ship Entertainment, who have been so supportive right now.
Thank you. My pleasure. And it's true. Together.
Wanted to speak to a couple of things before we stop. I wanted to mention, of course, that Christine Sinclair, our incredible campaign ambassador, she's really doing a lot over the course of this campaign, and we're hoping that we'll get a chance to chat with her. But please, if you see anything online, we're doing a lot of work on Facebook, on Twitter, on all our different social media areas to challenge one another to get involved with this campaign. I would encourage you to retweet anything that you see from Christine and from us. And we have all our different social media channels, and use this Show Up for Girls hashtag so that we make sure that we see it, and we will retweet your stuff as well too. And I want to also encourage you, as Alison and Suzanne and Paulette have mentioned, share your stories. We'd love to hear a little bit more about what you're doing to show up for girls in your life. And you don't have to be a parent. You don't have to be a guardian. You can be somebody who's an auntie. You can be an elder. You can be a neighbor. You can be a peer. Young women are showing up for other young women. It's really awesome. So I just want to make sure we understand that we can all show up for girls, no matter what we're doing, no matter what our role is, no matter what our family status and what our neighborhood looks like. There's different things that we can do. And of course, if you are able to give during this time, I'd like to encourage you to go to our website, CanadianWomen.org, Show Up for Girls, and you can give, and your donation will be tripled. Every dollar you give will be turned into 3 from Giant Tiger and Sinking Ship Entertainment partnership and support. So we really appreciate them. A shout out to them again. I can't say it enough. And please do check out our website and check out our social media over the month. I know you won't be disappointed, and we'll hear a lot of lovely stories and a lot of lovely impact. As was mentioned as well, too, in a couple of weeks, we're hoping to be able to speak directly with young people in programs and directly with those who support them, their program workers, and particularly what they're doing at this time. I think this whole pandemic has meant a real shift in the way that programs are delivered. A lot of things might be transitioning to online. There might be new programs that even had to start up, or new services that had to start up in the pandemic. We really are in awe of the people that we support, of the programs and services all over the country that the Canadian Women's Foundation supports. And we want to highlight that and really show that excellence. And at the same time, too, recognize that we have to do our own part. We can't just rely on the excellence of programs themselves, because they are struggling right now. Staffing has changed. Volunteers have changed. Sometimes they can't even come into the space. Sometimes they don't have the resources. And I'm just really thinking about these programs right now. And I think oftentimes it's the programs for women and girls who tend to get most challenged in these challenging times, because we don't always remember them. So let's remember them. Let's show up for girls during this campaign. And I just want to thank you for your support, for being involved. And we're going to keep this conversation going into the month. Remember, between October 5 and October 31st, the end of the month, you give, your dollar will turn into 3. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of the day. And we hope to see you soon here and on social media as well. Take care.